Hi folks, this is class number 11, Hebrew for All, a system by which everyone can learn to read, write, and speak Hebrew. I'm Shlomo Eitan. We've done 10 lessons up until now, folks, and I want to give you a little bit of a structure in order to deal most effectively with the material that we've learned. In addition to that, I want to invite you to see my blog at ulpaneitan.com, and there you'll get a little bit some of the background of the educational techniques that I'm using and sharing with you and trying to help you to become successful at learning this material effectively. Okay, so what we're going to start today with is something called the master plan, and I'll show you what I'm referring to. It's an original terminology of my own, and I want you to know it, and I want you to use it. It's my attempt to give you a very, very succinct, short, clear overview of the Hebrew verb system. Okay, so where it begins is like this. We have the verb over here on the far right-hand side, lishmor. That is, as you'll recall, the granddaddy of all Hebrew verbs. That's lishmor. Okay? And four forms of the present tense of lishmor, folks. Shomer, shomeret, shomrim, shomrot. Shomer, shomeret, shomrim, shomrot. And then we come underneath lishmor. And the first verb that we learn that's a sub-pattern of lishmor is the verb liknot. Now, what is it that distinguishes between the lishmor type verbs and the liknot type verbs? Well, in the lishmor type verb, what we'll see is that the three root letters in our granddaddy verb, that turns out to be the letters shin, mem, and resh, they will be present in every form of the verb, whether it's in the present tense, past tense, future tense, even in a noun associated with the verb. So that's like the perfect verb, lishmor. There are other Hebrew teachers who will choose another verb if they so desire. I happen to like lishmor, and that's the one I'll be consistently using, and we'll have it here in our master plan. And then underneath lishmor, directly underneath, we have the verb liknot, to buy. Four forms of the present tense. If you need to pause, go ahead and pause. Make sure you're on your toes. So the four forms of the present tense of the verb liknot are koneh, kona, konim, konot. That is in my personal opinion, the most significant verb that's a variation of lishmor. Why is that a variation? Because its three root letters were, as you remember, kuf, nun, and hey. And it was the fact of having a hey as the third root letter that really set this one off and gave it a slightly different sound in the present tense, and we'll see also in the past tense and in the future tense, but that's all coming attractions. Just to remind you, shomer, with the cat's eyes underneath the resh, underneath the mem, and then koneh with the three dots. Right? Pretty similar, especially in a country like Israel, which really doesn't pronounce those cat's eyes as an A sound, as is often taught in America or outside of the land of Israel. I believe that I pointed out once that we look at that in Israel as basically an S sound, almost indiscernible from the three dots of koneh. But for those of you who are capable of learning and maintaining these structures with these fine details, and I don't demand this of the students, I think it's good enough if you can just say shomer, shomeret, shomrim, shomrot, koneh, kona, konim, konot. I say if you can remember that the shomer types have those two dots underneath the mem, I call them cat's eyes, and the three under the nun, then that's a good place to begin. Remember, it's the feminine singular where the difference between these two patterns starts to become rather dramatically different. Shomer goes to shomeret. Koneh goes to kona. So on a listening level, on an audio level, koneh, kona, that's correct, on an audio level, what you're doing is, if you happen to hear shomer, and you're able to identify that there is a third root letter present, you can hear it, you can hear that reish, then you know, I'm in the lishmor pattern, shomer, shomeret, shomerim, shomot. And if you hear koneh, and literally you don't hear anything after the nun, but you know there's a nun out, the hey out there, because you've heard about it, so then koneh, kona, kona, konim, konot. In one of the upcoming classes soon, we're going to be expanding the master plan. In the meantime, those are the two verb patterns we've learned and how to deal with them effectively. Okay, now what I'd like to do is learn something new with you. And in order to do that, I want to bring another page up for us. And here we go. And here what I would like to learn is about what I call the mystery word of the Hebrew language. You heard it correct, folks. All of my nomenclature, my use of little catchphrases are all memory devices to help you folks know these things well. So I'm going to write down in English. I see a dog. And you can readily say to me, Shlomo, you never taught us the word for a dog. You're right. Some of you may know it. Others you may not know it. I'll give you the word. I'm always very liberal and free and generous about giving vocabulary words at the beginning of our endeavor to learn Hebrew together. And in my blog, once again at ulpaneitan.com, I'll speak a little bit more about why I'm like that. In any event, suppose you've been learning it very, very effectively now, and you can easily say, I see, so then you would write down, ani ro'eh. If it were a woman speaking, she would be saying ro'ah. And the word for a dog in Hebrew is kelev. Okay, I see a dog. It could also be interpreted in English as, I'm seeing a dog. And now suppose we wanted to say, I see the, T-H-E, dog. And now we all understand that we're talking about a specific dog, a definite dog. So what would it be? So I'm sure people have learned Hebrew before. You have some level of background. You're familiar with this word that I'm writing out here on the right-hand side, ha, and you know that it means the. That's right, this is Hebrew, and one letter, ha, means the, T-H-E. So you would think, I want to write down ani. Now let's pretend it's a woman speaking. Ani ro'ah hakelev. Get set, folks. Hope you're sitting down. Ha-kelev. Because gong. That's how I signal to my students that there's something that's gone wrong here. A gong is not a good thing to get. But it seems so right. I, ani, si, ro'ah. Because I said it was talking about a woman doing it this time. The, that's ha. He just taught that. You just taught that, Shlomo. Come on. Ha-kelev. That's the vocabulary word. The dog. I see the dog. Gong. Go back and recognize that something's missing here. And I'm putting in this arrow to indicate what is missing here is the mystery word of the Hebrew language, et. The word et has no translation into any other language. It's pretty much unique to Hebrew. And so what is it? And aside from that, very many people have read the first verse of the Bible. And there it says in Hebrew, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Twice in the very, very first verse of the Bible, you have the word appearing twice. What is this word that can't be translated? And when I say can't be translated, what I mean is if you'll go to a Hebrew English dictionary and you'll look up the word et, there shouldn't be a definition there. It should say something like, this word cannot be translated. So what's it all about? Especially since it's been associated with a book that's been around for thousands of years. And the answer is, it's a signal word. And what I teach students is the following. When you are after the verb here is ro'ah, in the order of the sentence, which is going once again from right to left across the page. This is Hebrew. So when you're after the verb and the upcoming thing, whatever it is definite, that means it's got a ha in front of it. In comes the mystery word et, signaling that the upcoming word is going to have, that it's definite. Now, definite means it has the word ha in front of it, or definite can mean it has a name, what they call in English. It's not really particularly important to me, but in English they think they call it a proper name. In fact, I'm sure they do. I'm just trying to make the people who feel intimidated by grammar words feel not intimidated. The last thing that I would want to ever do. So I see Shlomo. That's my first name, folks. One of the harder words to ever spell in the Hebrew language correctly. So Shlomo, that's definite. When a father and a mother call their child a name, that's the meaning of the name. They're calling a very specific child of their own by a name. What could be more specific than that? And hence in Hebrew, ani ro'eh, man speaking for example, et Shlomo. And here we can skip out on the ha because the general rule, and it's imperfect. And there might be other examples of where you can find that this et rule seems to not be functioning so perfectly. We can deal with those in the future. You could send me a question. But in any event, ani ro'eh et Shlomo. No one would ever say the Shlomo, the David, the Rachel, the Chaim, the Bruria. No one would ever do that. They would say only the name. And an example I give in class is if I were sitting in a class and I called out a name, let's say a very popular Jewish name, Chaim, and there happened to be 5 Chaims in the class, so what would we expect? All the Chaims will be looking up. Maybe I'm the Chaim that's being called on. Because that's what a name is. It's indicating definiteness. And in the Hebrew language, and there's a very cute anecdote associated with this use of the word et, that perhaps I could write about it in my blog sometime, that there was an attempt, fairly modern attempt, to try and do away with the use of the word et in modern Israeli Hebrew. But it didn't work. Et is still here, and it's being used by Israelis who can make all kinds of other mistakes in spoken Hebrew. But et is here, and it's here to stay. It's a signal word, and you want to know how to use it correctly. That's what this element of this part of this class number 11 was about. It was about sharing the use of this word et. Now, I want to stress one more time. I've taught an imperfect rule. Many, many rules that I teach will indeed be imperfect. But I'm trying to create a system, and I'm confident in it, that if it's going to work well above 95% of the time, it's good enough for us. Certainly on the stock market, if anyone is offering you a guarantee of 95% or better success, you'd be happy to go with it. So, I see a dog, ani ro'eh kelev. I see the dog, a very specific dog. I know when I hear you say that sentence, you're talking about a definite, specific dog, versus I see a dog. And finally, if it happened to be what they call a proper name, the name of a person, the name of a city, ani ro'eh et Yerushalayim, I'm flying by in an airplane, I'm overhead in a helicopter, ani ro'eh et Yerushalayim. Thank you very much. Shalom, shalom.